Okay, the Russian hack. What is the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is that Russia will attack within 6 months. Will attack America within 6 months. Now here are my 3 assumptions. Number 1, I'm assuming that Russia hacked into the Pentagon computers. Now our government denies that the Pentagon has been hacked. They admit that the IRS and other departments, cabinet positions have been penetrated, but they deny that the Pentagon has been hacked, and they deny that our nuclear missile program for retaliation, they deny that that has been hacked. But, okay, number 2, assumption number 2 is that the purpose of the Russian penetration of our Pentagon computers is for Russia to install instructions that will negate our computers being able to launch a nuclear retaliation. They're trying to install malware that will prevent us from retaliating effectively after a Russian first strike. Do you know what that means? If Russia can hit us and prevent us from retaliating, then Russia wins nuclear war and takes over the world. So we're playing for very big stakes here. If Russia has done the first 2 things, if my first 2 assumptions are correct, then that sets up number 3. Number 3 is that our investigators will be able to track down Russia's penetration and will be able to root out the malware. Now, if all 3 of my assumptions are correct, what does it mean? Well, if Russia assumes that our side can root out the malware that Russia has installed in 6 months, we will be able to, if we can negate what Russia has installed, if it takes us 6 months, then Russia will be under pressure to launch nuclear war within those 6 months before we can discover Russia's malware and root it out. And it's like this. Russia could say, well, we can simply install it again. We don't need to launch an attack within 6 months because we can simply install it again. Well, that's not realistic because Russia will assume that our side will not be tricked a second time. Russia will assume that we won't let them install their malware again, that we will be on the alert from now on. So they will be more likely to assume that they won't be able to install it ever again. That will mean that they have to use it or lose it. This is a classic case of use it or lose it. Either Russia uses what they've installed or they will lose it and won't be able to install it again. This is a classic case of now or never. There are certain things you're in a position, it's now or never. Well, that's the position that Russia is in. It's either now, in other words, within the next 6 months, or never. They won't be able to exploit the malware that they've installed if they wait beyond a certain point. So if the previous assumptions are correct, then Russia will be under extreme pressure. The Kremlin will be under extreme pressure to use their advantage before they lose it. And the advantage they have, if my assumptions are correct, the advantage they have is that they can launch nuclear war and then prevent us from retaliating effectively. And so they'll have to do it. And the Bible says that a dictator does take over the world. It's got to be Russia. And I've explained that in previous videos. But I'm going to keep this video short. It's 6 minutes now. And let me say in closing that 6 months from now would be around Pentecost time. Pentecost would be an excellent time for Russia to launch the attack. And this attack on our big cities, well, let's say 2/3 of the people in our big cities are Christians, and therefore, okay, 2/3 of our big city, let's say half our population is in our big cities, and our population is 330 million. So half of that would be let's say 160 million. Now, if 2/3 of that are Christians, that's a little bit over 100 million. I'm saying that the departure of 100 million Christians, let's say 120 million, would be the rapture. Much smaller than what people think. But you have to include millions of Christians killed in Europe. Daniel 7 verse 8 says, 3 horns will be uprooted. That's talking about 3 countries being attacked by Russia when they invade Europe. The other countries are not attacked, and the 3 countries that are attacked, they intimidate the other countries into surrendering without having to be attacked. And so it adds up to about, let's say, 150 million Christians. And then South Korea is a Christian country, and North Korea will attack South Korea. And so let's say at most, it will be 200 million Christians leaving the world at the same time. That's the size of the rapture. Much smaller than the 2 billion Christians that are in the world at this time. Okay. Finally, I always like to throw in that the tribulation will be 5 months. That's from Revelation 9, verse 5 and 10. And like Christ said, I come quickly. That means from the time the tribulation starts, Christ will come quickly from that point. Now, 5 months would be quick. And so that does support his statement, I come quickly. That's Revelation 3, verse 11, chapter 22, verse 7, and 12, and 20. Also, look into the description box under the video. I'll put a transcript of this video.